The sun hadn't even set on Drake's sprawling Toronto estate when the first whispers began. Murmurs that made their way from the underground club circuits straight to the most elite celebrity group chats. Something was off. Not off like a cancelled tour date or a petty Instagram feud. This was deeper. Darker. The kind of rumor that feels too insane to be real, until you realize it's Drake, and anything could be real. It all started with a private island. Sources close to Drake's inner circle, bodyguards, weed carriers, even his personal chef, swore that in late 2024, Drake had quietly purchased an uncharted island somewhere off the coast of Bermuda. Not for vacations. Not for recording. But for something far stranger. It's the Owl Island. One insider leaked, their voice shaking on a late-night call with a celebrity gossip blogger. He's building something. Something ancient. Rumor has it Drake's obsession with the owl, the logo of his OVO empire, wasn't just branding. It was a symbol tied to an obsessive belief in a centuries-old prophecy. A prophecy about an Owl King, a figure destined to control not just music charts, but the very fate of celebrity itself. Drake believed, or so the whispers said, that he wasn't just a rapper. He was the reincarnation of the Owl King, chosen to restore balance to the entertainment world, where influencers had become more powerful than actual talent. But the island wasn't just a playground for Drake's mystical delusions. It was where he had allegedly summoned her. The rumors didn't agree on who she was. Some said she was an ancient oracle, a spirit trapped in a centuries-old emerald that Drake had purchased at an underground Sotheby's auction, the same auction where Elon Musk reportedly bid on a cursed Fabergé egg. Others claimed she was an ex-someone from before the fame. A girl who had walked away from Drake back when he was still Aubrey, the awkward kid in a wheelchair on Canadian TV. A girl whose heart he had broken so badly, she cursed him to forever chase validation through platinum albums and Instagram likes. Either way, spirit or scorned ex, she was back. And she was on the island. For weeks, Drake would vanish from public view, no stories, no selfies, not even a cryptic tweet. Just silence. Paparazzi drones flew over the suspected coordinates of the island, catching glimpses of massive owl statues carved into the cliffs and ritual fires burning at dawn. And then there were the sounds. Fishermen in nearby waters reported eerie harmonies floating across the sea, voices weaving in and out of the wind, singing in languages no one could recognize. It was like a choir made of ghosts and autotune. One sailor told a local newspaper. And in the middle of it all, we heard him. We heard Drake. But it wasn't just the music. What made the whole story explode was what happened when two TikTok influencers, known for their celebrity stalking series, rented a yacht to get closer to the island. Their live stream, which started as goofy commentary, quickly turned into a nightmare feed watched by over 3 million people in real time. They saw the figures on the beach. Hooded, silent, all holding massive golden owls in their arms. And standing at the water's edge, illuminated by a ring of fire, was Drake. Covered head to toe in feathers. The stream cut out before they could get closer. The next day, their accounts were gone. Vanished. Every post, every follower, wiped clean. All that remained was a single DM they'd sent to a friend before going dark. We saw the Owl King. He saw us too. And that was only the beginning. The rumors didn't just fade after that. They multiplied. The vanishing TikTokers became a viral mystery, with conspiracy channels dissecting every second of their final live stream. Freeze frames of Drake, feathers gleaming under torchlight, were dissected like ancient hieroglyphs. People weren't just asking where Drake was anymore, they were asking what Drake was. And that's when the diary appeared. A former housekeeper, known only by her Reddit username ChampagneLeak69, posted a blurry set of photos on a deep web forum dedicated to celebrity occult activity. The pictures showed what looked like a worn leather journal, its cover embossed with the OVO owl, but this owl's eyes were bleeding. The diary, she claimed, was found under Drake's bed at the Toronto mansion. But it wasn't filled with song lyrics or business plans. It was a record of hauntings. Page after page chronicled the visits from her, the girl, the curse. The entity that Drake believed had been attached to him since the day Take Care went double platinum. Her name was never written, only a symbol, a broken heart pierced by an owl claw. The diary described late-night whispers in the studio, invisible hands scrolling through his phone, and every girl Drake ever fell for suddenly losing interest, ghosting him, blocking him, or, in one particularly unsettling case, developing a sudden allergy to any form of audio, unable to even hear his music. The curse, Drake believed, wasn't just personal, it was professional. Every beef, every public meltdown, every time Pusha T exposed him, all of it, according to the diary, was her hand at work. But the most chilling section of the diary was titled, The Kanye Prophecy. According to Drake's increasingly frantic handwriting, Kanye West had warned him years ago, at a secret 4 a.m. meeting inside a Wyoming recording studio, that he'd felt the presence, too. Kanye, always knee-deep in visions and revelations, told Drake that there was a spirit feeding off fame itself, hopping from artist to artist, breaking them down until their careers were nothing but memes and regrets. The spirit, Kanye claimed, had attached itself to Tupac first, then Biggie, then Whitney. It wasn't just bad luck. It was a hunger for icons. But unlike the others, Drake hadn't been consumed. He'd made a deal. The diary implied, but never fully explained, that during the recording of Nothing Was the Same, Drake had performed some kind of ritual in the 40s studio, using beats, bass lines, and his own blood to bind the spirit to himself. Instead of devouring him, it would feed off his heartbreak, and in exchange Drake would become the biggest artist in the world. For a while the deal worked. But now the spirit wanted more. And that's what led him to the island. The diary cut off suddenly, mid-sentence, with one final, chilling phrase. She's not haunting me anymore. She's inside me. The housekeeper, after posting the photos, disappeared from the internet entirely. Her account, her posts, even her IP history, wiped. A few dark web sleuths speculated that she'd been taken to the island. Others believed she never existed at all. By the time 2025 rolled around, Drake's public appearances became strategic at best and ghostly at worst. Whenever he did pop up, a courtside NBA game, a blurry fan selfie at a Toronto cafe, there was something off about him. His skin? A little too smooth. His smile? A little too wide. And his eyes, according to several fan accounts, were starting to look like they reflected light, the way an owl's eyes do in the dark. And then there was the Rihanna incident. It was supposed to be just a normal A-list charity gala in Barbados, a glitzy, star-studded event where billionaires and pop stars bid on vacation packages they'd never use. Rihanna, the island's queen herself, was hosting, and guests included everyone from Leonardo DiCaprio to Kendall Jenner. But the real shock was Drake's unannounced arrival. He wasn't on the guest list. He didn't come with an entourage. He just showed up, stepping out of a sleek black SUV that no one saw pull into the driveway. Dressed in a jet black suit with a subtle feathered texture, Drake walked into the venue like he owned the place, his OVO chain glowing faintly under the chandeliers. Rihanna froze mid-sentence when she saw him. Multiple witnesses swore her glass shattered in her hand without her even touching it. She hadn't spoken to Drake in years, not after their "will they / won't they" saga collapsed under the weight of memes and mutual resentment. But tonight was different. Because Rihanna wasn't just scared. She was furious. According to a leaked seating chart, Drake wasn't supposed to be anywhere near her table. But when the lights dimmed and the first speeches started, he was right there, at the end of her table, staring straight ahead, saying nothing. The tension was unbearable. Guests whispered. Security exchanged nervous glances. Rihanna's hands clenched into fists on her lap. And then the owls arrived. It started as a sound, a distant, echoing hoo-hoo that made the crystal glasses tremble on the tables. No one knew where it was coming from. The speakers were off. The DJ was outside vaping. The hoots grew louder. The glass doors leading to the balcony swung open as if pushed by invisible hands, and in they came, a full flock of white barn owls, swooping over the crowd in perfect formation. Guests screamed, diving under tables, clutching their designer handbags like life rafts. But Drake? He didn't even blink. The owls circled him once, twice, and then landed, perfectly still, along the edges of the balcony. 1,000 unblinking eyes staring into the room. And that's when Rihanna stood. She didn't scream. Didn't panic. But the air around her seemed to shift, the way it does before a storm. A nearby guest swore the temperature dropped 10 degrees in a matter of seconds. "You shouldn't have come here," Rihanna said, her voice low but cutting through the chaos like a blade. Drake finally turned to her. His smile was too wide. "I needed to see you," he said, except it didn't sound like him. His voice had a strange, layered quality, like two people speaking at once. The lights flickered. A waiter's tray shattered on the floor. And somewhere in the distance, the sound of wings flapping filled the room. That's when Rihanna walked right up to him, nose to nose, her heels clicking against the marble like the ticking of a countdown clock. "You think you can control it," she whispered. "But you never could." Drake's smile faltered. "She's still in there," Rihanna said, her hand hovering inches from his chest. "And if you brought her here, you've already lost." That's when Drake's eyes changed, just for a moment, turning completely black before flickering back to brown. His face twitched, as if something inside him was trying to claw its way out. The owls? They started dropping dead, one by one, falling off the balcony like discarded puppets. Drake stumbled back, his hand clutching his chest, gasping like something invisible was crushing his ribs. Rihanna didn't flinch. "You let her in," she said. "Now we all pay the price." And just like that, Drake collapsed. The owls were gone. The lights steadied. The room was silent. And when Drake's bodyguards finally rushed in, Rihanna was already gone, leaving behind only a half-empty champagne flute and a single black feather lying on her seat. Drake's collapse at the gala was never officially reported. TMZ ran a "mysterious health scare" headline before mysteriously pulling the story within an hour. Not even the deep-cut gossip accounts dared touch it, which meant only one thing. The celebrity Illuminati was involved. Most people think the whole Illuminati thing is just a meme, a punchline about Jay-Z's triangle hand sign or Beyoncé's halftime rituals. But insiders, the managers, the stylists, the assistants who've seen too much, they know the truth. There really is a council, a quiet shadow network of A-listers who maintain the delicate balance between fame, fortune, and the supernatural forces that feed off both. Drake's case? It had been flagged years ago. Rihanna's confrontation at the gala had triggered the council's emergency protocol, the cursed timeline files. This wasn't some digital folder, these were actual, handwritten scrolls stored in a vault beneath Rick Rubin's secret Malibu compound, listing every artist, actor, and influencer who'd been touched by the entity. The files were ancient. The entity was older. And Drake's name? It had been added the night. Started from the bottom. Hit number 1. The council convened at an undisclosed location, rumored to be the basement of a seemingly innocent Eruhan in West Hollywood. Present at the emergency meeting were Beyoncé, seated at the head of the table, her fingertips resting on a black crystal orb. Jay-Z, silent but visibly annoyed, because this was exactly the kind of mess he'd warned Drake about. Kanye, participating via glitchy hologram from Wyoming, a tinfoil crown perched on his head. Adele, who rarely attended these meetings but had been the first to sense the shift in Drake's energy during their last brunch date. Taylor Swift, her private feud files in front of her, because, apparently, the entity had tried to latch onto her after the 2009 VMAs, but Kanye had unknowingly intercepted it. The Owl King prophecy was never meant to reach this point, Beyoncé said, her voice low and steady. "We told him," Jay muttered, rubbing his temples. "We gave him the handbook." Kanye's hologram flickered violently. "It's the fame frequency. I told y'all. These streams are cursed. We've been feeding it for years." Adele gently slapped Kanye's hologram, cutting the signal for a moment. "What exactly happened at the gala?" she asked, her British calm unnerving everyone else. Beyoncé placed her hand on the crystal, and the room's lights dimmed, casting eerie shadows along the walls. From within the crystal, a playback unfolded, real-time surveillance footage from the gala floor. They saw it all, the owls, the confrontation, Rihanna's chilling words. But there was something the guests hadn't seen. The footage showed a shape, a shadow, crawling up Drake's back. It was female in form but distorted, flickering between shapes, like a glitching hologram. Her face was blurred, her limbs too long, her hair moving in slow, unnatural waves. "She's breached," Beyoncé said softly. "The entity has fully merged with him." "That means," Taylor began, but Jay-Z cut her off. "It means Drake is no longer Drake," Jay said. "He's the vessel." The room fell silent. There had been other vessels, of course, artists who burned too bright, too fast, and were consumed entirely by the entity. Britney had survived it. Whitney had not. Michael had been too powerful, managing to fight it off for years before finally losing the battle. But Drake? He invited it in. "We have to extract him," Adele said firmly, "before the entity becomes permanent." "How?" Taylor asked, flipping furiously through the feud files. "The last recorded exorcism ended in Tupac's hologram breaking loose and causing that Coachella incident," Beyoncé finished. "We remember. But there was one wildcard left. Rihanna. She spoke to the entity directly," Beyoncé said. "She's the only one who can weaken it." Kanye's hologram flickered back. "And what if she can't?" Beyoncé's gaze darkened. "Then we trigger the fallback protocol." Taylor swallowed hard. "The fallback is total deplatforming," Jay said flatly. "Complete digital erasure. All streams, all videos, all social accounts, wiped. An artist reduced to nothing more than a Wikipedia footnote and blurry YouTube uploads from 2009. No one had been fully deplatformed since 2013, when the council erased a famous EDM DJ who accidentally summoned a techno demon during a Vegas set. "Give Rihanna 48 hours," Beyoncé said, standing. "If she fails, Drake gets scrubbed." "Where is he now?" Taylor asked. "Back on the island," Adele whispered. "Where it all started." The council knew what they had to do. And Rihanna? She was already one step ahead. The moon hung low over the dark waters, casting a dim silver glow over Owl Island, the place Drake had transformed from tropical retreat to supernatural battleground. The air was thick with mist, and from the cliffs, giant owl statues stared down, their eyes flickering between gold and blood red. Rihanna arrived alone, or so it seemed. She stepped off a blacked-out speedboat, her bare feet sinking into the cold sand, her gown shimmering with what looked like liquid obsidian. But anyone who's been around long enough knew, Rihanna didn't come empty-handed. Every step she took sent a faint ripple through the ground, like the earth itself was adjusting to her presence. Somewhere deep in the island's jungle, Drake felt it. The entity inside him, once content to lurk in the background, stirred violently. His hands shook as he gripped the arms of a throne made entirely of all bones, his fingernails now talons, his pupils blown wide like some ancient predator staring into a void. "She's here," the voice inside him whispered, her voice. "The entities. We knew she would be," Drake answered, his voice layered with his own, and hers. Rihanna wasn't alone for long. A second boat pulled up moments after her, its hull reflecting the dark sky like a portal. From it stepped Adele, wrapped in a heavy cloak, her left hand clutching a crystal tuning fork, a tool used by the council to disrupt the frequencies the entity thrived on. Behind her came Jay-Z, armed with a gold-tipped cane etched with symbols dating back to the ancient Sumerian era, a key to the spiritual locks that bound the Owl King to this realm. Taylor Swift arrived last, her hair braided into a protective knot passed down through generations of Appalachian witches. Around her neck hung the feud pendant, its amethyst core pulsing faintly, a relic that absorbed the backlash of supernatural beefs and redirected them into the nearest Kardashian. "This is madness," Taylor muttered, stepping onto the sand. "We should have scrubbed him when we had the chance." "He's not gone yet," Rihanna said, not turning around. And I'm not letting him go without a fight. The jungle path twisted under their feet as they moved deeper into the island's heart. The air grew heavy, scented with burning cedar, oud, and something metallic, blood, maybe, or something older. They found Drake seated on his throne of bones, crowned in a headpiece made entirely of owl feathers fused to his skin. His eyes flickered between normal and pitch-black voids, his skin shimmering like it couldn't decide if it was flesh or stone. "You came," he said, his voice echoing unnaturally. "Of course I did," Rihanna said, stepping forward, the hem of her gown turning the sand beneath her into obsidian glass. For a moment, something flickered behind Drake's expression, something human. Regret? Fear? It was impossible to say. "You don't have to do this," Rihanna said, her voice gentler than anyone expected. "I'm not the one in control anymore," Drake replied, his hands twitching as the talons lengthened, curling around the arms of the throne. "Then I'm not talking to you," Rihanna said, and she called the entity by its true name. The air split open like a wound. A howl, part owl, part human, part something no human ear was meant to hear, ripped through the jungle. The entity, bound to Drake's body, jerked him upright like a marionette. Her face, the cursed spirit who had latched onto him all those years ago, flickered in and out of sight, half in his skin, half floating above him. Beautiful, broken, ancient. "Why won't you let me go?" she hissed, her voice layered over Drake's. "I made you everything you are." "You made me a prisoner." Drake spat, though whether it was him or the entity speaking was impossible to tell. Jay-Z stepped forward, slamming the gold-tipped cane into the ground, sending a shockwave of protective energy rippling outward. The owl statues lining the cliffs shattered on impact, their stone bodies collapsing like sandcastles. Adele raised the tuning fork, its tones splitting the night air, disrupting the ancient frequency link between Drake and the entity. The entity screamed, her form splintering, claws digging into Drake's chest, trying to hold on. "Let him go!" Rihanna shouted, her voice vibrating with the force of a command, not just as a woman scorned, but as a queen who had survived her own curses and come back stronger. The entity clung, but it was weakening. Every heartbreak song Drake had ever recorded, every lyric ripped from his own torment, was feeding back into her, overwhelming her. "Take care," Rihanna whispered, and the final blow landed. Drake collapsed to his knees, the entity peeling away from his skin like smoke drawn into a vacuum. It twisted in the air, shrieking, before shattering into 1,000 black feathers, scattered on the wind. Drake gasped for air, fully himself for the first time in years. But there was a price. The entity might have been banished, but her mark remained, her talon-shaped scar burning into his chest, a permanent reminder that fame isn't free. The council left the island that night, silent, exhausted, but victorious. Drake would recover, but he would never again be the man he was before the curse. The music would sound different, haunted, raw, stripped of the supernatural boost that once elevated him. His albums would still sell, but the effortless dominance was gone. Rihanna disappeared from public life for a while, rumors of her returning to the island alone, standing at the cliffs where the final battle had ended, singing softly into the night. No one knew who the song was for, herself, or the ghost that had haunted them both. The island itself? Vanished from maps, its coordinates scrambled by the council. Even Google Earth couldn't find it anymore. And yet, every now and then, late at night, when the wind hits just right, fans swear they can hear it. The Owl King may have been dethroned, but legends never die.